I never imagined that a simple family vacation would become the turning point of my life. At the time, I thought it would be like any other trip, busy, a little awkward, and full of polite conversations. What I didn't know was that one moment beside a swimming pool would rewrite my relationship with my family forever. My name is Daniel Parker. I live in Austin, Texas, where life moves fast and expectations move even faster. I work in a mid-level management job, long hours, constant deadlines, always chasing the next goal. On the outside, everything looked stable. Inside, I was exhausted and quietly struggling. I had been married to Emily Parker for 4 years. She was kind, intelligent, and deeply family-oriented. Her father, Robert Miller, was a retired firefighter from Phoenix, Arizona. Strong, disciplined, and reserved, Robert was the kind of man who spoke less but noticed everything. From the very beginning, our relationship was respectful but distant. We were polite to each other, but there was always an invisible wall. I never felt judged by him, yet I always felt like I needed to prove something. Maybe it was my own insecurity. Maybe it was the silence. When Emily suggested a family vacation to Scottsdale, Arizona, I hesitated. A full week with her parents felt overwhelming. But she smiled and said, "It'll be good for us." So I agreed. The resort was beautiful. Palm trees lined the walkways, and the air smelled like warm stone and fresh water. The first few days passed quietly. Breakfasts were calm, dinners polite. Robert mostly listened, occasionally adding a thoughtful comment. I noticed how he woke up early every morning to walk around the property, observing the world like it was second nature. On the 4th afternoon, the heat was intense. Emily suggested we relax by the pool. I wasn't much of a swimmer, but I agreed. I wanted to show I was easygoing, adaptable. The pool area was peaceful. Families laughed in the distance, water reflected sunlight onto the walls. I stepped into the shallow end at first, letting the cool water wash over my legs. Emily swam confidently, while Robert sat at the edge, feet in the water, watching quietly. I decided to move toward the deeper end. I had swum before, but never confidently. I told myself it would be fine. Just relax. That was my mistake. Within seconds, my foot slipped. My body tilted, and suddenly I was underwater. The shock was immediate. I tried to push myself up, but panic took over. My arms moved without rhythm, my breathing collapsed into chaos. The noise around me faded. All I could hear was water rushing past my ears and my own racing heartbeat. I tried to call out, but nothing came out. My vision blurred. I don't know how long it lasted, seconds felt like minutes. Then, suddenly, a strong grip wrapped around my shoulder. I felt myself being lifted, guided upward. Air exploded into my lungs as my head broke the surface. I was pulled to the side of the pool. I coughed, gasped, and clung to the edge. Someone kept a steady hand on my back. It was Robert. His face was calm, focused, exactly the way it must have been during emergencies all those years as a firefighter. "Easy," he said firmly. "Breathe slow." Emily rushed over, fear written all over her face. "Daniel, are you okay?" I nodded weakly, still catching my breath. Robert didn't let go until he was sure I was stable. He helped me sit on the edge, handed me a towel, and stayed close, not hovering, just present. "I didn't know," I finally said, embarrassed. "I thought I could." "It happens," he interrupted gently. "Panic makes good swimmers freeze." There was no judgment in his voice, only understanding. That evening, something changed. At dinner, the conversation felt different. Lighter. Robert asked me about my work, not in a casual way, but genuinely interested. He listened carefully, nodding, asking thoughtful questions. Later that night, as the others went to rest, Robert and I stayed outside by the patio. The desert sky stretched endlessly above us. "You scared me today," he said quietly. "I scared myself," I replied. He was silent for a moment, then said, "I know what it's like to push yourself without admitting when you're tired." I looked at him, surprised. He continued, "When I was younger, I thought strength meant never struggling. Took me years to learn that real strength is knowing when to accept help." Those words hit deeper than he could have known. Over the next few days, Robert and I talked more. Not forced conversations, but real ones. He shared stories from his firefighting days, not heroic tales, but lessons about teamwork, patience, and humility. One morning, he invited me on his early walk. We walked quietly at first, the sun rising over the desert. "You're a good man, Daniel," he said unexpectedly. "But you carry too much alone." I didn't respond immediately. No one had ever said that to me before. "I want to be better," I admitted. "For Emily. For myself." He nodded. "Then you're already on the right path." When the vacation ended, I realized something important. The pool incident wasn't just an accident. It was a wake-up call. It forced me to confront my pride, my fear of appearing weak, and my distance from the people who cared about me. Back in Austin, I started making changes. I spoke openly with Emily about my stress. I adjusted my work boundaries. I even took swimming lessons, not because I had to, but because I wanted to face that fear. Robert and I stayed in touch. Not constantly, but meaningfully. Occasional calls, short messages, advice shared when needed. Months later, during a family gathering, I watched Robert playing with his grandchildren in the yard. I realized how grateful I was, not just for that moment in the pool, but for the quiet guidance that followed. He didn't just save me from drowning. He helped save me from myself. And sometimes, the people who change us the most don't do it with speeches or pressure. They do it with calm strength, steady hands, and the courage to care when it matters most.